A car slid sideways in turn 4 before the green flag had even dropped. No explanation, no warning. Just a driver alone on a wet track, spinning out for no apparent reason. Days later, one of the sport's most respected veterans said it wasn't an accident at all. A NASCAR veteran accused one of the garage's most talked-about young drivers of faking a crash just to get on camera. The two names now tied to this story are Kyle Larson and Carson Hocevar, and what Larson said next reopened a wound that had been building for weeks. Before we get into exactly what Larson said, would a driver really risk his own car, his own race, just to get airtime? By the end of this video, you might change your mind. Rain had soaked New Hampshire Motor Speedway ahead of the Dollar Tree 301, forcing the Cup Series field onto wet weather tires. During the pace laps, cars eased around behind the pace car as drivers tested grip, a routine and cautious process before the start. Then Carson Hocevar broke from the pack, accelerated past the pace car, and spun in turn 4 before the race had technically started. NASCAR sent the field back to pit road and delayed the start again, and the broadcast struggled to explain what had happened. Joey Logano, running behind Hocevar at the time, was caught on his team radio calling him an idiot during the incident, and he later mocked him on X, writing, "Look at this guy, look at this idiot. Geez." The clip of the spin became one of the most replayed moments of the race weekend, with reactions spreading across social media within minutes. Hocevar defended himself afterward, posting that he wanted to test the grip when no one else was nearby, adding, "If no one else was going to test it, I'll do it." Was that really a calculated move to test the track, or something else entirely? One driver watching from behind didn't buy it for a second. Days later, away from the track, Kyle Larson appeared on the Door Bumper Clear podcast, a setting where drivers tend to speak more freely than they would on a television headset. Larson is one of the most respected and talented drivers in the current Cup Series field, and he rarely criticizes his peers publicly. That's what makes what he said next carry so much weight. Larson said, "I mean, spinning out before the race, that was 1000% just to get on TV." That single sentence turned a strange pre-race incident into a credibility crisis. Larson didn't stop there. He extended the criticism into a broader read on Hocevar's on-track persona, saying, "I don't think you have to totally neuter him, but I almost feel like he's at the point now where he's like, doing it even like, it's not really him. It's a piece of him, but he's going above what he really is." This is a fellow competitor stating that Hocevar is performing a version of himself rather than racing as himself. And speaking of hard-hitting NASCAR breakdowns, this channel, NASCAR Trackline TV, is closing in on 1,500 subscribers, and if you want every update on where this rivalry goes as the chase begins, subscribing helps make that happen. Larson just said Hocevar isn't even being himself anymore, that he's performing a character on track. Is that a fair read, or is Larson misjudging a driver trying to survive in a sport that rewards chaos? It gets worse before it gets clearer. Larson didn't limit his comments to New Hampshire. He brought up an incident at Iowa that the broadcast cameras allegedly never captured. Larson described it directly. "I think he just blacks out. The camera didn't catch it at Iowa. I don't know, but he was trying to spear Bell. Did you see any of that? When he got lapped for the second time, he was trying to spear Christopher Bell for 2 laps. I don't understand. You admit that you wrecked yourself, but then you still go out and run right through him the next chance you get." The contradiction Larson pointed to is specific. Hocevar admitted fault for his own mistake, then allegedly retaliated against Christopher Bell, an uninvolved driver, twice in the same race. A spotter's account of the situation described it in blunter terms, framing it as a driver playing for attention, clicks, and views rather than racing on instinct. 2 separate incidents, New Hampshire and Iowa, now point to the same accusation. Is this a pattern, or is Larson building a narrative against a driver he simply doesn't like? What happened on track after the green flag finally dropped at New Hampshire adds another layer to this. Once the race started, Hocevar found himself in another incident, this time with rookie Connor Zilisch. Hocevar attempted to cover the bottom lane, moved across the front of the number 40 car, and spun himself out, later admitting responsibility for the spin. Despite accepting blame, Hocevar made contact with Zilisch again shortly after, mirroring almost exactly the pattern Larson had described from Iowa, playing out days after the podcast aired. Race day reaction online was immediate, with fans trying to make sense of a caution-strewn afternoon where Hocevar was, by several accounts, the most talked-about car on the track, spinning multiple times, making extra pit stops, and returning to the lead lap within a lap or two each time. That pattern left fans questioning how a driver causing that many cautions kept avoiding real consequence, a sentiment that echoed what Larson had already described on the podcast. NASCAR's own broadcast confirmed cars were collected in the Zilish incident, adding an official layer to what had, until that point, been just a driver's opinion. Larson made his accusation before the Zilish incident even happened, and then it played out almost exactly the way he described it. Type yes in the comments if you think Larson called it. Larson's criticism doesn't erase what he thinks of Hocevar's talent. He has called Hocevar maybe the most talented out there, a compliment sitting directly beside an accusation of faking a wreck for television time. Hocevar reportedly had top 10 speed for most of the day at New Hampshire, which raises the question of why a driver with that level of speed would need to manufacture drama at all. Is Hocevar's on-track chaos a calculated brand-building strategy in a sport that rewards attention, or is it something less controlled? After the race, Hocevar posted a reflective note on social media, looking back at how far he and his team had come across 3 seasons in the Cup Series, heading into the chase. So which is it? Is Carson Hocevar the most talented driver nobody is giving a fair shot to, or is he exactly what Kyle Larson says he is? Pause and think about that, because what comes next doesn't offer a clean answer either. Logano's on-air jab and the broader frustration from other drivers point to something larger than one comment. Hocevar's reputation is becoming a flashpoint across the entire Cup Series field. Online, the debate split fans down the middle. Some defended Hocevar's aggressive style as exactly what the sport needs more of, arguing that unpredictability is part of what makes a driver worth watching. Others sided with Larson, pointing to a pattern of Hocevar avoiding real penalty for incidents that would sink another driver's day. The specific tension keeps resurfacing. How does a driver spin multiple times, trigger caution after caution, and still recover to a respectable finish almost every week? That question is landing right as the chase field is being finalized, with Hocevar in a tight points battle, meaning every additional bit of scrutiny now carries real playoff weight. If you were Hocevar's crew chief right now, would you tell him to tone it down before the chase starts, or let him keep racing exactly like this? Comment, tone it down, or let him cook. Larson's comments didn't end the controversy. They added to it right as the sport enters its most important stretch of the season. Does Hocevar change anything about how he races heading into the chase, or does he lean further into the exact persona Larson just called out? Every mistake, every spin, every attention-grabbing moment from here forward will now be viewed through the lens of Larson's accusation. A driver with undeniable speed, a growing list of doubters in his own garage, and a playoff run ahead that could either silence his critics or prove Kyle Larson right. So tell us, does Carson Hocevar prove everyone wrong in the chase, or does this controversy follow him all the way to the championship? Comment your prediction below. We'll be tracking this one race by race. And before you go, drop a comment, hit share, and let us know what you think. It genuinely helps this channel grow. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next.